Now we know the birth of Jesus we've looked at, but we also hear a very specific detail. Christ dies at age 33. Well, the answer to that is again concerning the precession of the equinoxes. The sun passes backward through the zodiac, remember, and moves through each of the 30 degrees in approximately 1 month of 30 days. So, on a daily routine, it takes 30 days to move through one sign. It comes into a sign at the first degree and is completely out of the sign by the 33rd degree. That is why Jesus, the Son of God, was said to have died at 33. It is also why there are 33 degrees within Masonry. Freemasons are the descendants of the stellar cult. So we have Jesus, our Father who art in heaven, referring himself to the sun, to Venus, to the morning star. The sun is 3 degrees in the sky. A sign is 30 degrees. In order to move 30 degrees, but to completely leave it, it's about 33 degrees. Let us understand also that when the sun god falls, he falls into the female signs. And although the Christians did a lot of heavy-duty work to denigrate that, the idea was that the son is born in the Virgin, and he dies and goes back to the Virgin, to the mother. That is the night sky. Forever he is encompassed in the body, the womb of the night sky. So at this stage of our program, it is not outside the bounds of reason, after what we've been showing, that we have to understand that the Gospels are not a biography. The Bible was and is nothing more, nothing less than an astrotheological story, a sidereal myth. I believe that the writers of the Bible knew that. They had no intention of ever presenting it as anything else. And they would have been astounded that modern generations would actually think that it was a biography. Because if you were actually trying to create a biography, you would have done a much better job than the one that we have coming down to us. Even with all the machinations and throwing away and burning of other books, you still would have made it look more officially like a biography if that had been your intention. But the allegorists of the ancient world knew that everyone knows that this is a fable, a story. They would have not been able to even comprehend how this literally would have been taken so literally, and that the real, pure, beautiful, intriguing and mysterious meaning of it would just have been thrown out with the trash. This can be confirmed because if one substitutes the words zodiac and constellations for the following terms, the scriptures will begin to reveal their secret meanings. What terms? You can take a lot of them. Tabernacle, New Jerusalem, Nazareth, Bethlehem, Hall of Judges, Kingdom of God, Tent of God, Flocks by night, Aeons or ages, Seasons, Oracles, Citadel. So he or she entered into the tabernacle. We have the 7 churches, the Mount of Olives, Mount of Glory, City of David, Celestial City, Heaven, Throne of the Elect, Abode of the Most High, the Labyrinth, the Most Holy Place, Mercy Seat. Whenever you meet or encounter these strange, cryptic, untranslatable terms in the Bible, just in your mind, substitute the word constellations or zodiac and see what happens. You might be amazed. Now, the dramatis personae of the Old Testament are not biographical characters. Abraham, Jacob, Moses, Solomon, David, Samson, Joseph, Daniel, Jesus, and all the other patriarchs originally symbolized alignments and conjunctions between the planets and the luminaries. Their many wives, their sons and daughters simply represent degrees and minutes of zodiacal arc. So that's right. When we read about these patriarchs and their wives and their many sons and daughters, let us understand that this is another coding system. Everybody's running around trying to find how to break the code of the Bible, and yet these most important codes nobody pays the slightest attention to. These patriarchs, nobody's ever found any history of them, that they ever even existed. And we're not going to be able to decode this Bible until we understand how it works. So when you hear about Abraham coming onto the Pharaoh, or Moses appearing to the Pharaoh, or any king, I'm just giving you one example here, the kings of the world were always represented by the sun or by Jupiter. The rabbis and the Semitic people really preferred Saturn, as we saw. So when the Saturnian patriarch, Moses, David, Abraham, Solomon, comes to the Pharaoh, as an example, we're talking about a conjunction of some kind, an aspect between the planets Saturn and Jupiter. The amount of daughters and sons they have are minutes and degrees of arc. So this whole thing can be decoded. There are scholars who are working on this right now to decode the whole of the Old Testament Now, as I said, the potentates know this. Pope Leo X, it has served us well, this myth of Christ, he said. If we look on the internet to gospelnet.com, this is a Christian website featuring the Bible, what do we find as their logo? The rising sun. Not Jesus, not a picture of the Christ, not a cross, but the Son of God, the sun in the sky, is the logo of gospel.net. How interesting. We have the very dramatis personae of the Bible, as I said. You can decode it. God is the Son, obviously. There's no female of any significance in the early part of the Old Testament, so we just start with God, the Son. His son, Adam, corresponds to the male sign of Aries, which is always shown as the bulky, phallic male, the aggressive warrior. That's Adam, the first son. Eve can be Taurus. Taurus is the female sign ruled by Venus, the earth sign of Taurus, which is always feminine. And then they have Cain and Abel. They're twins. And what do we have after Taurus? Gemini, the twins. And Cancer that comes after that is the first Holy Family. They make up the family, which is known as Cancer. Then comes the conflict between the brothers. That's Leo, the time of conflict, and so on. This has a very modern context, though, because this reminds me of the speech that Gore made in Weapons of Mass Deception. In this series, we go into the occult history of the politicians and make reference to that. In one of the addresses that Gore, Vice President Gore, made when he was with Clinton, I happened to notice, and this is common that I notice this with politicians, they use old archetypal motifs. In the speech that Gore was making, he literally went through the signs of the zodiac, meaning he used terms and passages that related. He talked about independence and the war on terror and the need to be strong, and that's of course Aries. He talked about the budget and how they have to always solve the economical problems, the financial world, that's Taurus. He talked about coming together and problem solving, which is a Gemini type of understanding, connectivity. He talked about the family, as they always do, and healing the family and making sure they all have Medicare and whatnot. That's Cancer. He bypassed Leo because Leo is him, the idea of the solar king doing the talking, and the pride and all of that, and the pride of America. But he moved on to Virgo, which talked about sacrifices, and also talked about the medical world, and they're going to take care of that. And all the way over to Libra, you know, where they're talking about stretching their arms out to the allies and bonding with allies and all the rest of it. If you listen to that speech, every one of the signs of the zodiac was subliminally implied. So God is the sun. But Samson was the sun. In fact, the word shamash, Samson in Hebrew, shamash, means the sun. It's so literal. Daniel in the lion's den, fighting the lions or being saved from the lion. The whole idea is Leo, based at the Son of God, is passing through the trials of the sign of Leo. Because like Hercules, you go through the 12 signs if you're the hero. Decoding the Bible is very important when we understand that the sons and daughters represent degrees of arc and that the patriarchs can also represent the great planets. But you see, earthly, terrestrial matters, like I give the example of Gore, terrestrial matters are based on celestial. A very important historical anecdote in Irish mythology is the coming of King Billy, William III of House of Orange, destroying the Stuarts. But where did they decide to fight this battle? On the River Boyne. On the River Boyne, not far from Newgrange. Literally the oldest monument, the oldest pyramidical structure, or the oldest domain in the world. The oldest ancient site known to man. They have their great conflict there. What's more is that when the horse, this great white horse that the King William was riding, entered into the water, at precisely that moment, the planet Jupiter was moving over the Milky Way. The Milky Way is known to be the great river up there, the river Styx, the river of the heavens. So somebody is counseling the king. Everything is done with the idea of